Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about Neptune transiting the third house in a natal chart. Now, on average, Neptune will traverse a house for approximately 14 years. However, if your house size is a little bit larger than average, then Neptune will be in there for a little bit of a longer duration. If your house size is a little bit smaller than average, then Neptune will be in there for a little bit of a shorter duration. Well, anyway, people, the first thing I say, when Neptune transits your natal third house, it could indicate that you might be a little bit more ambivalent than usual. You might have a little bit more difficulty making decisions, being decisive. Some things you say, maybe you have more things that you say that might be ambiguous or might be misconstrued by other people. It could be a time too when you're not exactly punctilious with details, and you might have a hard time remembering certain places to be and at certain times, and consequently it may make you less punctual, reliable, and dependable. And your thinking might be somewhat nebulous during this period as well. However, it could be a period where you might be talking about things connected with the metaphysical, spiritual things. These are things you might want to learn during this time and communicate about. Your mind may be more intuitive than it generally is. It may be where you may have trouble, though, articulating some things and in saying some things during this time, articulating your thoughts. Now, the third house is also connected with siblings. So if you have any siblings, well, they may be a little bit more deceptive, possibly during this time than usual. And the thing is, too, you got to remember that Neptune is connected with chemicals like in drugs and alcohol. So especially if you have a sibling that's already like a social drinker, say a casual drinker that drinks somewhat but not real consistently, not a habitual drinker. It's just to be wary that there is a chance that it could escalate a little bit during this period, because the third house does govern siblings, and Neptune is connected with alcohol and drugs. So this is something to look at during this transit. In most cases I don't see that happening, but I think it does increase that propensity a little bit. And you might find that your neighbors might be a little bit more deceptive than usual too, and it might be harder to really see them as trustworthy. Some of them, they might not be as reliable as what perhaps they had been. And with this transit, it might be a little bit more difficult to distinguish fact from fallacy from others. And another thing too is, keep in mind the third house is also connected with transportation. So if you have a vehicle, it's possible you might have some things happen with it that might be confusing or confounding, and it might be at that time where, even if you are mechanically inclined and you're now at least somewhat knowledgeable about cars and about vehicles and fixing, might be something that you might not be able to fix because of the nature of the problem, and it might be time to bring it to a mechanic because of this. So, and also the third house is associated with short journeys. So you might see a little bit more deception connected with this. People saying, well, they're going to be at a certain place, like say you have a friend in your neighborhood or something, and he or she says, well, I'll meet you at such and such place at such and such time. There's a little greater chance they might be later than usual a lot of times, or maybe not even show up. So those are some things to look at as far as this, perhaps as far as this transit goes. Now, it's really, the thing about this too is that when you have this transit, you may be able, as far as the third house is about communication, and Neptune is associated with dreams. You might talk about your dreams more than usual, the things you fantasize. You might put out more, you might put them on a blog, perhaps. It could be a time too where maybe you even write about things, other things Neptune related, such as maybe some, for example, writing about harmful chemicals like radon, for example, and doing things connected with that. And really, it's really also a time where you have this transit, is that you have to remember that it is difficult sometimes to really, as I said before, about differentiating fact from fallacy. And let's say if you have like a contract, say, that you're looking at, and I mean, contracts can be a form of communication. It's written. So always scrutinize and read the fine print if you're signing something during this time, because as I stated previously, you're not exactly going to be punctilious with details during this transit. And really, you got to look at this like you have to really try harder to really see fine print and things, in whether it's on a contract or whether it's in some other form of writing. Make sure you do the best you can to get all the details on things during this transit, because it can be real easy to be oblivious to these kind of things that could be very important, and really a lot easier to overlook them during this transit than usual. Well, anyway, it's also important to look at the aspects, if any, that are made from this transit to your natal planets and points during this transit, because it could impact the transit. Now, let's say, for example, that transiting Neptune is making a sextile or trine to your natal Mars during this transit. Well, this could be auspicious for taking action connected with other people. And it might also be good for perhaps the metaphysical or spiritual things as well, and other things connected with Neptune. Now, being in the third, this could be tied in perhaps to neighbors and siblings, if you do have any siblings. Now, let's take another example. Let's say that transiting Neptune is making a square, inconjunct, or opposition to your natal Jupiter. Well, this could be really, there might be some difficulties in testing luck, so to speak, via unrealistic ventures during this time. And being in the third, it might be somehow connected with siblings, and it might be perhaps connected, perhaps even with neighbors as well during this period. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Neptune transiting the third house in the natal chart. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about Neptune transiting the fourth house in the natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.